What's up, guys? It's your boy Tito once again, Candyman, and once again, I'm with my wife Bez for another episode of the Bez of Kenn. These are not medical advice. If you need help, please seek a professional. Today, we're gonna talk about something that is difficult to talk about, but I think we should. It's about dealing with anxiety. But this time around, I think let's focus on work. First off, we just want to make this disclaimer that we are not experts. So if you are experiencing something very difficult right now, please go to a therapist
A
or
professional.
a professional, a health professional that can help you deal with that. Having said that, even if we're not experts, I think it's okay that we discuss this topic because I'm a firm believer that mental health should be part of our daily conversations. And it's not just limited to doctors, to health professionals, because we need to understand this for ourselves and we need to process it as well.
Remove the stigma.
Yes, remove the stigma and taboo because, a lot of Filipinos don't want to talk about mental health. When they say mental health, they think, oh, you're crazy or you're
Mandaluyong.
diba? So stuff like that. So, we just want to talk about it because it is reality and mental health is health, right? So right now, let's focus on anxiety, like I said. So we won't talk about burnout or depression first.
Yeah.
So let's deal with the onset of having a mental health issue of anxiety at work. Yeah. So Ian, what do you do when you have an episode of anxiety?
Um, well, I think it's important first to be able to identify if you're having
Right.
an, a moment, I would call it.
Yes.
Having that moment of anxiety. And for me, I usually can detect it when my body starts to feel something unusual or different, or when it starts to fire up, as I would say, not in a good way. When I start to feel like there's heat coming off my body. Am I making sense here?
Right.
Like if my body is uncomfortable or there's like uneasiness in my body, and so that's usually one of the first triggers, or yeah, one of not triggers, one of the first way for me to identify if I'm having a moment.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, I
So
would.
wait, before that, I think that's a good point though that you should identify your symptoms or what makes you say that you are already experiencing anxiety or you're just sad or angry.
Yeah, and it's important to do that so that you can label it. And when you put that label, you would know then what to do next. That's
Right.
the way I kind of process my anxiety at work. And again, there's nothing to do with external factors. Work has been really good in the sense that my coworkers, my colleagues have been really great in helping me adjust to this new season. My company is wonderful as well. And a lot of my anxiety comes from me comparing myself to others. And a lot of it comes from me comparing myself to my past. Right? So
I
it's
see.
it's not being in the moment. It's not being present. It's not being here right now and always going ahead of myself. Ken would like usually tells me it's happening because you're two steps ahead, or like you're at the very end of the worst possible scenario that can come up. And that is one way for me to also identify it.
Right.
That hey, is this happening in the moment? And is this the feedback I'm getting from others, or is this all in my head right now?
Right.
And it's important to really identify that. And so I use those two things. I listen to my body to identify if I'm having that moment. And second, when I do feel like I'm having that moment, I go back into my thoughts and I do like a quick trace of where is this coming from? Is
Right.
it thinking too further ahead,
Mm.
or is it looking too much into the past? Is it comparison? And for me, usually it's because of perfectionism. I
Right.
always want to be perfect in front of people, and that's why this podcast is very uncomfortable. Okay, so yeah, I want to be always perfect. My work has to be perfect. My relationships have to be perfect. And basically, when I think of those three things, it's really not being in the present, right? So when I am able to identify that, I'll be like, okay, I'm in this moment. Now, it's not always easy to identify it, and it takes quite a practice to right, say, okay, Bez, you're having a moment right now.
Right.
So I guess I wanted to start there first.
Yeah, what I liked about what you said is that you need to identify the symptoms
Mm.
and then also identify your triggers and then understand why that triggers you. So that's
Yeah.
what I got from what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ako naman, how I deal with it naman directly siguro is that when I feel that I'm in that space or I'm in
Mm.
that moment, I always remove myself
Mm.
from that place or that situation. So what does that look like? When I work from home, it's easier because I can always just get off the laptop or get off my
Mm.
computer. I go on social media or I'd watch TV, I'd watch TikTok just to remove myself from that moment.
Mm.
But when I'm in the office, which you
Or with
can't
colleagues,
with colleagues,
right?
you can't just
Stand up and go.
stand up and go, or you could do that if
Mm.
it really is triggering you that much. But what I do is that I'd make sure that I'd have a long break all to myself. So what does that mean? Lunchtime
Mm.
or just have a coffee break, that I do it by myself and not with
Right.
the colleagues. And why? Because number one, I'm an introvert.
Mm.
And number two, it's because I know that when I do have lunch with colleagues,
Mm.
what will usually happen is that either we joke about stuff, we laugh, and I know in my mind that I'm not in that space to laugh. I'm not in that space to be happy, or to make jokes. So I just pretend to socialize with them. I pretend to laugh at the jokes. I pretend to
Mm.
be happy when in fact I'm not. So I won't be able to deal with what I'm feeling because
Yeah.
I'd have to present myself in a happy manner. You don't want to be a killjoy naman in that environment. Or they could also be stressed like yourself. So what they could do is they can talk bad about the company or the situation or colleagues, no? And I know that in that moment or when I'm in that space, I'd probably do the same. So I'd talk bad about colleagues, I talk bad about boss because I'm triggered. And
Mm.
you might say things that you'll regret. And
Right. So what I'm hearing from you is that when you deal with things, you take yourself out of the
right.
situation and then you reset, right? I think that's the most important,
Yeah.
where you look at things and okay.
Yeah, but I want to complete this thought is that you might say things that you'll regret, and what you need to understand in the corporate environment is that word travels, no?
Mm.
So you might say bad things that will affect um, relationships with your colleagues, with your boss. So just be careful. That's why I remove myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and do the reset and get back to your energy. Figure out how to get back to who you are, right? So that you can better assess what you want to do next.
Right. And if lunch break or a coffee break isn't possible,
Mm.
just go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
That's what I do
exactly.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What else? What else you want to share with them in dealing with anxiety?
Well, I think as Christians, it's very important for us to pray.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes when you're having a mental health issue, sometimes you just need a listening ear, and God can be that.
Exactly.
God can be that. You could
Mm.
tell Him about your worries, your fears, uh, the what provokes you, and he could be that, and you could have a deeper connection with him. You could understand him more spiritually, and maybe, and if you read the word,
Characters.
there's a lot of characters that indeed suffered from mental
Yeah.
health problems, you know, and every time what God tells them, well, most of the time, what God tells them is just to sleep.
Yeah.
It's so
And
funny.
eat.
Sleep and eat. Because, you know, sometimes it's just that. You just need to have a reset. You just
Mhm.
need to sleep and eat.
Exactly. And I like how you said that because in my life, when I go through my moments, I would really go into a prayer and like tell God, God, this is what's happening. Please take over. Please provide me with wisdom. And even if it's in a meeting, that's a silent prayer that's going
Mm,
in my head. And I think aside from praying, what you can also do is to lift up that moment to
right.
God, lift up that situation, lift up
Mm,
that meeting. And usually for me, when I know I'm gonna go into a meeting that would bring me a lot of anxiety, um, right before I turn on that virtual camera, I would really do a quick prayer and say, Lord, this is for you. Please take over this meeting. Be the one to be here, Lord. Be the one to take over and be here beside me. Let me hear the Holy Spirit. And so that has helped me in the sense that I always feel like I have a partner when I go through moments such as an anxiety.
right. And understand that, you know, this too shall pass and
Mm,
that we believe in you and that God has always been faithful to you. That's what
yes,
we just want to say.
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, once again, we're not experts, so take everything we said with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to engage in these conversations in dialogues like this. And if we said something that makes sense or something that you believe is
Mm-hmm.
wrong, then we're so open to hearing from you. Leave it in the comment section,
Yeah,
and you know we'd be happy to learn from you as well. No?
exactly.
Just understand that you're not alone. Talk to friends, talk to family, better yet, talk to a health professional and talk to God. So, yeah, thank you everyone and see you on our next episode.